Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Rhythm Connect podcast. Today, I have the distinct honor of hosting a truly remarkable woman who has not only shattered glass ceilings in her profession, but is proof that women can have it all. It is my honor to introduce to you our special guest today, Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Sake Torkornoo, the 15th Chief Justice of Ghana. Your Ladyship, welcome to Rhythm Connect.
Thank you. It's a joy to be here.
Thank you. To our listeners, let me share with you why I am in awe of our guest today. Justice Torkornoo is only the third woman in the history of Ghana to hold this prestigious position. This makes her the number 4 citizen of her country. Not only is she a powerhouse in the courtroom, outside of it, she is an accomplished poet, author, and educator. Her ladyship has dedicated nearly 2 decades to the judiciary, serving with distinction at every level, from the High Court to the Supreme Court, and has played a pivotal role in modernizing Ghana's judiciary through initiatives like the e-justice system. She has also been a vocal advocate for integrity and transparency within the legal system. Her ladyship story is one of empowerment, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of justice. We are thrilled to have her with us today. Your ladyship, you have risen to the top in a male-dominated profession while still maintaining your distinct identity. I'm going to ask you this, your personal journey and your leadership. Is there a philosophy that has guided you throughout your career, particularly as you rose to the position of Chief Justice in Ghana?
Maybe not a conscious philosophy, but an unconscious one that I carry, and that's authenticity, being yourself. I've tried not to be anybody else. I've not been interested in being anyone else because I think that every human being is unique. And so we should be happy with who we are and appreciate that there's never going to be anybody like you. There's one of everybody, and that one person is a gift to your community, to society. So be the best that you can be. I think authenticity will be my personal philosophy.
It's amazing to hear that because that's what I tell the women when I meet, because don't try to be someone else, because I think a lot of us try to do that, and that's when sometimes you think you have failed, because you're always looking at someone who's powerful or who's successful, and you want to be that person. So I like when you say that each and every one of us are unique, right? And we are different. Our journey is going to be different, right?
Absolutely.
So as long as you have the passion to succeed and you know your path and you know where you want to go, then everybody's journey is going to be unique and different. So I like the way you put it in a simplest way, one of not conscious, but it's an unconscious philosophy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
As one of the few women to hold such a high office in Ghana, what have been some of the most significant challenges that you have encountered, and how did you navigate them? Not just where you are, but to get there, your journey. So you can tell us so that a lot of women can relate to that and they will see that there's some of it that they can apply to their life as well.
I think it's some of the most significant challenges would be keeping all the balls in the air without hurting anyone. So, for instance, you're a mother. I have 4 beautiful daughters. You are a wife. I love going to church. I'm not willing to compromise that. And then there are many different things. I love to teach. I've always been involved in the Judicial Training Institute. And before then, I was involved in teaching in different arenas. You're a professional And then you're a daughter. I lost my dad 2 years ago, but my parents were married for about 60 years.
Wow.
Our lives with them were very active. You're many different things. How do you get ready for court when there has to be food at home and you have to drop the children in school on time? And so navigating that for me were the most serious challenges through the journey. And I thank God I managed to do it. Now, I think that the challenge that I'm most aware of is the burden of leadership. Appreciating that everybody seems to have their own notion, how you ought to impact them, what you ought to do. And you're dealing with 35 million people, the whole nation. You're leading an arm of government that needs to satisfy the needs of the most vulnerable and the most powerful.
Yes.
And so dealing with the conversations from all sorts of angles, that's about the biggest challenge. And I think that just like the Journey app and the Journey here, my response has been finding that which works for me without breaking me up. Yeah. So my first responsibility is to remain Gertrude.
The fact that when I asked you what your challenges and how you navigate, you didn't touch on the professional, you touched on the personal side first. And I love that because I think a lot of women find it difficult to find that balance. Because if you're married and you have your professional journey, but you also have your responsibilities at home. And that doesn't mean just because you are, let's say, you're somebody professional, even you as Chief Justice of Ghana, that doesn't mean that you don't look after your husband. Because that doesn't come because you're forced, but it comes out of love. And you know that respect that you have for each other. So sometimes women fail to see that also because they think if you do those things at home, it means that because they think that is not something they should talk. It's not good for their professional side. So I like when you began, that means, and also you said you want to be Gertrude first.
I don't have a,
Yeah,
I don't have a choice.
That.
I don't have a choice. I'm Gertrude to begin with.
Yes, we don't. I love it. You know, the way you started, because you started with that personal. And then you said about the country, you talked about the less fortunate, the powerful, and the weak. And I love the way you're answering. You're so quiet and you're not making a lot of noise. You're quietly being powerful. And I now know, I mean, I've heard a lot from Ramya, a lot about you, but now I know how you came here, because I don't think you made a lot of noise in that sense. I think I think by the time you got there, they were like, they couldn't see where you came from.
Can I tell you something? Can I tell you something?
Yes.
Months before I became Chief Justice, I became aware of the fact that many powerful people in my country, of course, the question was out there, who will be the next Chief Justice? And there were conversations about it would be this person or it could be this person. And my name came up and many powerful people said, who is that? And I was shocked. I thought I'd been a High Court judge, I'd been a Court of Appeal judge, I'd been a Supreme Court judge. I was surprised that many people didn't know me. But I guess it was because I just went about my life. Yeah, and being a judge is not a noisy profession.
That's what I said. You seem to have quietly creeped in. And when you became the chief, they were like, where did you come from? You know, I think they were looking at you. I really love your answers because you're also quiet, even when you're answering to me. It's going very smooth. You're there. I mean, I think a lot of women will relate to it because you're identifying who you are first, and then comes your profession. I love that. We talked about this. You started with saying that you want to be Gertrude first. But I still want to emphasize that, do you have a personal support system that has played a role in your professional journey? And what advice would you give to others in balancing these aspects of life?
Oh, I think I've had outstanding support. You know, I grew up in a very loving environment. Unlike many people who have the misfortune or who have the experience. My parents were not polygamous at all, which is very common in my society.
Yeah.
And so all my siblings and myself and my parents were in one place. So even though my father wasn't a wealthy person, he was an educator, was a teacher, and he retired as a director of education. Even though my dad wasn't wealthy, my mom was what we call in Ghana a housewife. She sewed, she baked, she did many different trades. In that sense, we were not wealthy, but my dad invested in education. My parents invested in our education, and I felt secure. I don't think I ever felt apologetic about who I was. So I think that foundation of acceptance has contributed a lot to being strong and being able to deal with the world. Because many people struggle with acceptance because they have experiences that destabilize them as they're growing.
Yeah.
And then I would say the next sort of support system I had is that I married a man who is very gentle. So he accepted. You describe me as quiet. I doubt if many people around me would call me. I've always been very active in many things, but he also accepted me. He wasn't critical. Yeah, I think this is what he was looking for, as a type of person he was looking for. And so he was happy with what he got. And so at home, I could be myself. And well, I doubt if I would have been any different even if he had demanded.
I have no doubt.
And then I've talked about church, family and friends, the wider family, schoolmates. There are many support systems in Ghana, the extended family. And then becoming a lawyer, I worked in a law firm where really there wasn't that much cantankerous competition. It was, in Ghanaian terms, a big law firm, but it was supportive.
Yeah.
We were supportive of each other. So I'd say that I've been blessed. I've been blessed functioning in an environment that wasn't destabilizing. And, Ghana's never really had a civil war. We have quite a calm society.
Right.
We disagree, assert, we move on.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot to do.
Yeah. It's also, well, you talked about you had all this support system. Of course, it's important, the support from the parents. My father didn't treat me and my brother, we're 3 siblings in the house, and he never treated me differently. And sometimes my mother would make me do things, but but my father, on the other hand, I think he had more trust in me than my brother. Because when he gave me things, he was a businessman. So when he brings money back home, he'll actually give it to me than to my brother, because he knows what's going to happen. So I think he knew, and I think he gave that confidence for me when I was growing up. So it's important for parents today, because I always say these values and culture and who you are, it does begin at home as a young age, and it starts to mold you at home. So I think, like you said, it's important.
Let me share something with you. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, it's okay.
A few years ago, I was invited to a meeting of women who had risen.
Right.
And there was a conversation around the table as to what each one thought was distinctive. And it was interesting. There was a vice chancellor, there were Supreme Court judges, there were CEOs, very high-ranking women. And virtually every lady around the table, I think this is an important point to put out there, had this to say about their dad. Their dad was supportive. Their dad was loving.
Yeah.
And their dad gave them that confidence. So I think it's an element of human living that needs to be known by communities. That when parents commit to holding up children, and especially fathers, where their daughters are concerned, it produces a woman who can deal with the world and rise to whatever rank.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that's Yesterday I was telling them the same thing, saying that it's not just a mother's responsibility, it's a responsibility of the father and mother, because they kind of bring in different perspective to
That's
a
right.
family.
That's
And
right.
I think children need to see and they need to receive that both sides. And I'm going to come to your professional insights, because I think women need to see that as well. In your experience, what does it take to thrive in a leadership position, especially in a field that is traditionally male dominated?
I can speak for myself.
Yes.
I think you need the trust of those you're leading. You need to understand what their needs are. Even if that's not the first thing that's articulated, even if they put on their wants on the table first, you, whilst addressing the wants, you need to sort of move to the needs and you touch them. And with the need, they then get together with you to work to bring first things first. So trust is important.
Yes.
Without trust, it's more difficult to get collaboration and cooperation. And you can hardly do anything by yourself.
Yeah.
You need people, you need teams. You need teams as in TEAMS. You need teams. You need teams that understand where you're going, that can set things up without you and move them. So trust is important, cooperation is important, collaboration is important, and clarity of communication.
I love you. it's you didn't say wants, yeah, you said needs of the people, which I always say when we go into a community and we are working. I always say we look at the needs of the people and not the wants, because the wants are very different from the needs, and to build that trust. And I think we need to be honest with people, right?
Yes.
The sincerity that they need to see. So it's more like building a connection with the people that you are working with, right? Then they will not see whether you are a man or a woman, but they will see your leadership as your capability, I think.
And they'll see you as a friend.
Yes, I like that. Could you share an example from your career where being proactive and curious led to an unexpected opportunity or success? Maybe there's many, but it's something that you remember.
Yes, I recall in 2003, we got a new Chief Justice. And at that time, I had developed a training firm, a training consultancy, because I love to do that. And I had also written some books on business law. And I didn't know that it was one of the goals of the Chief Justice to start a specialization of courts, and especially the commercial division of the trial courts. And so I booked an appointment, went to see him. Congratulations, Your Lordship. I've got these books on business law, and I've also developed a training model for judges. Can I get your permission to apply to train judges? And so that's just Gertrude being myself. This is what I've done. I'm looking for business.
Yes.
And so I went back to my office, and a few weeks later, I was told the Chief Justice is on the line for you. I literally stood up behind my desk. And yes, my Lord, and he says, we're starting the commercial division of the High Court, and I'd like you to become a judge.
Wow. Okay.
That took a lot to process. So could you come and see me? So I went to see him. And my initial response really was that I would love to be a judge, but I'm not ready. I haven't done all the different things I want to do. But he was very convincing. And he said, I'll give you time to prepare. Because I'd set up a law firm earlier, and I was enjoying the adventure of running the law firm. And so, well, one thing led to the other, and that's how I became a judge.
Wow.
So I didn't set out to be a judge. I took a proposal to the Chief Justice for judges. And because of the work I had done in business law, because I'd specialized in business law virtually all of my professional life, that's how I became one of the first judges of the commercial division of the High Court. I think you asked for an incident.
Yes,
That's
yes,
one incident.
yes. It's you went in there not realizing what was going to happen, right? Well, that's how things happen.
It was an unexpected trajectory. I don't think I was too excited about it because
Right.
I didn't think I was ready to settle down out of limelight, out of all my different. I love the adventure of running this, doing that. I was just doing those things for myself, Becoming a judgment that you couldn't run a consulting firm, you
Yeah.
couldn't do all of that.
Yes, that'll limit you. Yes.
But eventually I became a judge.
You are needed for a greater good. For those who are aspiring to leadership roles, because that's sometimes the difficult part, particularly young women, because we also have women in our organization, and sometimes we give them the opportunity, but they kind of think that they're not ready for it. But whatever those reasons may be, what do you believe are the most critical steps they should take?
I think one, deliberate learning. And once again, I stumbled into this. I recall that, again, 2003, I was invited to a leadership school.
Okay.
It took me away for 30 days. It was actually in Hawaii. And during that 30 days, many of the things I had done sort of unconsciously began to fall into place. We were trained on concepts such as deliberate communication for leadership, mobilizing people, motivating people, goal setting. So different things that leaders do and that sharpen the skills of leadership. And when I left, I think that since I left that place, many things that I did unconsciously, I began to appreciate the model of doing them in a particular direction to get the best results.
All right.
So deliberate learning is good. When you aspire, find somebody who is a good model for you. Get close to them. Speak with them, learn from them. If you have the opportunity of leadership schools around you and ones that are accessible, they may be short courses. Do them, study, and then of course read. You see, because I think the learning is critical to success.
Yes.
I mean, you may love to cook, but if you took time to read a cookery book,
Yes.
it would help.
Then I agree. I
help.
like when you said deliberate learning. I mean, that is something new that it's a lot of new things I'm learning from you, which is simple, something that people can do. Talking about, because I think sometimes we think that somebody is ready for the leadership, but they have not had that much experience and they are not ready yet. So maybe we have to give them that avenue and we have to give them time to kind of ease into that position and say, like you said, maybe direct them to a role model, right? Or tell them that you can go out there and learn, because learning is lifelong. Yeah, we never stop learning.
Yeah.
And so reading is the same. So I think this is something women should, because sometimes women tend to limit because of their responsibility at home with the children, with the family and extended family. They think, okay, this is enough, because if I take on any more responsibility or leadership, then I'm neglecting my family. But this is kind of limitations they put on themselves.
Yes.
Nobody else does it.
Yes.
So I think they need to think beyond. I think they should be allowed, or they should want to dream and achieve big. From a personal reflection, as someone who also engages in creative pursuits like poetry and writing, how do these activities influence your approach to your role as Chief Justice?
Well, I've been a Chief Justice for just a year. But what I appreciate from my writing is that humanity thrives on a range of experiences. For instance, how do I get my poetry? Usually when I'm driving or I'm in an airport or I'm sitting somewhere, it sort of rushes at me. I usually keep material close by that helps me to record.
Right.
And then when I've got enough, I put it into an anthology. I read, and I love to go watch a play, watch a performance. And so it's critical not to put yourself in a box and say, I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
Because in order to really get to express all of yourself, you may do different things. You
Yes.
may love to create items. Some people, I know mathematicians who are in fashion designing. So appreciating that humanity thrives in a range of different things allows you as a leader to open the door for those different experiences and to enrich the lives of those you work with all those different experiences. I recall that in April, I launched my vision for my tenure. And I got that idea actually from a colleague Chief Justice. I was in a different country, and this is a lady Chief Justice, and she had articulated her vision. And I thought, oh, this is very. By then, I mean, I hadn't been told that I could become Chief Justice, but I thought this is excellent. So when I got the responsibility, I did the same thing. But at the launch, I thought it would be quite boring to have all these people come and make speeches, and then I would also go stand there and make a speech. I mean, let's make this thing more interesting for people. So I had seen a musician, and her performance was just outstanding, the way the whole package was. So I looked for her and invited her. And her performance really brought a beautiful break.
Not do what everybody does with speeches.
But that's what happened with the function. I mean, there were all these performances.
Yes.
And so it helps to awaken the senses.
Yes.
And to hear that's more serious stuff. Because human attention span is not that long.
No.
You need to move on.
Yes.
And break and come
Yes,
back.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think you need to do different things and not do the same thing. Say even if it's a legal conference or something, it doesn't have to
Everybody's
be
talking law.
I agree with that. And sometimes, because I'm a Indian classical dancer as well.
Wow.
I was young.
Wow.
And sometimes I'm like, my downtime is I'm dancing around, moving around, and when my husband sees it, I'm not like, what's happening here? What are you doing?
You should
I said,
do it
"It's
for
my way of breaking."
You should do it for your people one day. Thrill them.
I know. I say it's my way,
Being
breaking
you.
away from what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
sometimes that becomes my inspiration, like
Yeah.
you say, and it happens. Looking back on your career, what are some of the pivotal moments that shaped the leader you are today in your journey?
I think getting the trust of Chief Justices such that they gave me responsibilities, because almost as soon as I joined the judicial service, I got involved in the work of the Training Institute. And so I learned I told you how I came into the judiciary.
Yes.
Yes. And then I got involved in the work of the Training Institute. And then I was very interested in what would make the specialized court I had been asked to become a judge of, what would make it succeed? Because it was an initiative for the country. It was a reform initiative. And so I threw myself into all the different engagements we had to have with the Bar Association, we had to have with the business community. All of these things have to come with structures, because when we had one group called the Users Committee, where we had to have rules for conduct and engagement, but ways in which the business committee understood how justice works and the judicial community understands the social dynamics of business, so that in giving rulings, we even shape it to enhance the business environment of the country. So in getting involved in these issues, the Chief Justices would ask, Justice Gertrude, would you mind helping to do this? Do you mind helping to do that? And so that's how I got onto committees. Committees responsible for designing internships for law students, committees responsible for designing e-justice initiatives, and all of these different things. Major reform projects with maybe DFID, with the donor communities, with the different ministries. And so I was doing my work as a judge and doing the administrative things that moved the agenda of justice delivery forward. I had no idea I was getting trained. The chief justices, I believe, just needed help. And that's how I understand how much leaders need help.
Yeah.
They needed help. They had vision, but they can't achieve it without help.
Yeah.
And I was willing to help. So getting involved in that, and then they would ask, could you go to this conference and do this presentation? Could you lead this thing? Could you produce these manuals? And through that, I began to understand the whole institution, the whole structure. And so by the time I came to the Supreme Court, I was really involved in justice delivery. I was known by various parts of our Ghanaian community. That's why I was surprised when I was told that certain key people said they didn't know me. I've been very busy. How come you don't know me anyway? So I would say that getting the trust of chief justices as somebody who could represent them and get work done without getting in their way, without having a second agenda other than getting the work done, was pivotal. So for the three, I worked under 3 chief justices and 1 acting chief justice. For each one of them, I was known quite well, and I think they easily supported the conversation to make me chief justice because they could say, we know her and we trust her and she'll be good for the country. It's good to give. Just be interested in giving.
It's like you've been multitasking. You've been everywhere. So I take back saying that you're not quiet. But it's just that I think it's the way that I think you go in. It's like you're in, and then they look at, you're already in there.
To help.
Where
to
did
do.
she come from? It's that kind of an entrance I think you've been giving. Your Ladyship, you did say that you have been in this, as Chief Justice the last 1 year. So what would your advice be, or whether it's challenges that you have overcome, or also the positive side of your position, what it is, the women out there who are aspiring to be in those higher positions, and something to close, that what would you say to the women out there?
Choose to understand people. Choose, as much as you should stay away from those who have a double agenda to achieve objectives that are not appropriate. Choose to understand people.
True.
So even when the narrative has been unnecessarily skewed because people are looking for a certain objective, appreciate where they are coming from, and then personally develop responses for dealing with it. So if you don't mind, I'll share this story. I recall when I realized I was too busy to cook.
Okay.
I wondered, how do I get my husband to agree that I'm not going to be cooking, that we need a chef, because I've become too busy to cook. So I asked around, and somebody was recommended. And then I got her to cook for our family a number of times. And she said to me, get the ingredients so that the taste is not so different from what they are used to. So I'd get the ingredients for her and she would cook the meal. And after the second time, my husband is eating and he goes, this food tastes different. This guy shouldn't give you problems. I'm on a journey. I need to change this home, because sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and cook because I'd been too busy during the day getting this and that done. After the third one, I said to him, you know something, I've brought somebody in to help us with cooking. He said, all right. And so I introduced them formally, and then I gave her a key. And so we would go out to work and would come home and find all these dishes beautifully cooked, including desserts. And she became the love of our lives.
So it's the art of bringing someone in, isn't it?
It's the art of appreciating you have a problem, designing a solution, and getting everyone to
see. So what would the men do without the women?
And so for many years now, we've had these really nice chefs who help us all, and everybody's happy.
My story is similar like that. I just remember, in the first few years of us being married, I didn't have anyone to help. So I was cooking and doing everything. Then I realized as well, okay, this is not going to work for me.
Yeah.
And then I slowly had to bring in, and my husband was, okay, this is a bit intrusive because we have someone living in the house and 24/7. And then, okay, the person is walking around all the time. So it took him a while.
Yeah.
So, but today he's like, okay, my helper, I don't call them my mates because I tell them they're part of my family.
Yeah.
And it's if they are not there,
Yeah.
I will not be able to do what I'm doing.
You need me to do more things than just cooking and cleaning.
Yes,
and really, I don't like them as much as doing the law.
I know.
So the philosophy is seek help.
Yes.
Get help. You can't do it by yourself. And whatever little somebody can contribute, especially if they are people of goodwill, and will not destroy or destabilize your environment, engage them.
If you're good to them, then you also get good people for you.
If you're good to them, and kindness and compassion and understanding is such a critical part.
Absolutely.
And it gives everybody peace.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
There's something I say, life is not complicated. We are the ones who make it complicated.
Agreed on that. Thank you. Your Ladyship, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey and insights with us today. Your story is a powerful reminder of the importance of resilience, curiosity, and the strength of a supportive community in achieving success. To our listeners, I hope you found this conversation as inspiring as I did. Justice Torkornoo's words offer valuable lessons for anyone striving to make a difference, particularly in leadership roles. Whether you are at the start of your career or leading in your own right, there is so much to take away from today's discussion. As we wrap up, remember that owning your space, as her ladyship advises, is about more than just being present. It's about making an impact, contributing meaningfully, and never being afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in to Rhythm Connect. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and keep pushing boundaries.